Okay, so by now you've probably heard a whole lot of advice on how to succeed as a filmmaker, but what about all of the things that no one warns you to avoid? I've been a filmmaker for nearly a decade and I've made my fair share of mistakes. Some really small and others have been life-changing. The latter taught me lessons I wish I would have learned a whole lot sooner. So in this video, I'm gonna share 5 of the biggest ways that you could fail, how to avoid them, and how to turn all of that around to fast track your success. And we're just gonna dive right in, but before we do, what's happening? My name is Ryan, and if you're new with us, welcome. I truly appreciate you. Before we dive into these mistakes that I've made personally, I first want to say that mistakes in general aren't necessarily always a bad thing. In fact, I believe that failure is the quickest way to success because those failures are an opportunity to learn more, and you just simply don't know what you don't know. So the best way is to make a mistake, learn from those mistakes, and apply it to the next thing. So this video isn't to produce the fear of failure, but rather to embrace it. I can only speak to these things because I've made every mistake on the list, and the solutions that I'm providing in this video are lessons that I've learned over the course of many years. And to be honest, I am still making mistakes, and I'm okay with that because they're, again, an opportunity to learn. But enough of all that, let's hop right into the video with my first thing, and that is the topic of gear. Now, I'm not saying to not buy gear, or that gear doesn't matter, or anything like that, but more so thinking that we need the most expensive or up-to-date gear. Buying the latest and greatest isn't a bad thing, but do we always need it? That's a question that I've been asking myself every time a new camera system comes out. I've had the FX3 since it came out. I've had it for a few years, and I honestly can't see myself replacing it at any time soon. Buying too much gear, thinking that I needed the most expensive and every piece of gear that's available on the market was a huge mistake that I made earlier on in my career. I went out and bought every piece of gear, and it almost crippled me because it took me a while to pay all of that stuff off. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor, but what I am saying is when you go out to buy gear, just make sure that it's gear that works best for you. One other thing I want to say is that you really don't need a whole lot of gear to produce great films or YouTube videos even. I've used my phone here on the channel and nobody said anything about the quality, but if you know how to craft a story and you know how to color grade for that story and light for that story, the real truth is you don't need a whole lot to make something. And as a matter of fact, I just used my FX3 and one lens to film part of this commercial right here, and I think it personally looks great. But as always, all of this is just my personal opinions, and this is just based off of the years of using the gear that I have and using other gear before that, and all the gear that I get to review here on the channel. But if you are having a hard time trying to get started and knowing what to get, I have a whole list of the things that I like to use for this channel particularly, and for my work in general. All that is down in the description below if you'd like to check that out. But moving on to my next thing, and that is just simply not making films. Spec projects will continue on with your muscle memory, giving you the ability to learn new techniques, and it updates your portfolio. Buying gear and learning the craft is a really great start, but if you want to make this a living and you want to be a working filmmaker, you have to have a proof of concept. Any kind of work that you've done to prove that you could do the job that you're wanting to be hired for. So if you have a portfolio, then you have something you could send a potential client or producer so that they can see your work, see that you have the ability to do it, and you have a little more leverage there for someone to hire you. And I would consider making spec work on the types of films that you want to get hired for. For example, if you want to do documentaries, find an interesting story and an interesting person and just make that short doc. If you want to make ads, create spec ads. If you want to do commercials, create your own commercial with the products you have in your home. If you want to make feature films, make a short film so that you have a proof of concept of what that feature film would look like so you could pitch that to producers. The point is to just get out there and make your film. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, where your knowledge or skill set is, just make the film because one, you're going to learn a lot more that way. Again, by practicing as much as possible. I say this a lot on the channel, but also you're going to get some work in your portfolio that you could show producers, clients, and whoever wants to hire you or whoever you want to be hired by. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, and that is waiting for the phone to ring. This is a huge mistake that I made in my career for way too long. Anything from DMs, emails, or the phone literally ringing, waiting for someone to come knocking on your door with a wonderful opportunity is almost like winning the lottery. It doesn't happen very often. Not to say that it doesn't happen. I've definitely had many opportunities come, but most of that was built on trust I already built with the community that I was in and the work that I already have in my portfolio. So it's important to build a way to generate those leads the more emails and phone calls and ads and things that you put out there, the more you're gonna generate leads, which will give you more opportunities. The way that I've been liking to generate leads is by reaching out with a document. And it's a very detailed document on how I can help, what the process looks like, what their deliverables are, and how I can help distribute this video so that they get a return on their investment. Business owners and brands, they wanna know that they're gonna gain something from the video, what kind of return they're gonna get by investing in you. So having this detailed document that's tailored to the specific brand shows them that you're already invested in them and their brand. It shows them how you're gonna help. And then of course, it shows them how they're gonna make money from spending money on you and your services. Now I know that's a lot to take in, so I just wanna encourage you to save this video for later so that you can watch it again, because there's a lot of value unpacking into this. All right, enough of that. On to the fourth mistake that I've made in my career that's totally held me back, and that's just simply not planning. Now, before you click away, I know this isn't the most interesting topic to hear about, but it is extremely important for you and succeeding as a filmmaker. There's a phrase that I've heard a lot, and that phrase is, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And I'm telling you, based off of my experience alone, this is absolutely true. The truth is, even just a little bit of planning can be the difference between making films and making films that bring you opportunity and ultimately a living. But let me show you what I mean. For example, if you're making a brand story style video, then the intent is to create a video that's tailored to their target audience that hits them on a deeper and emotional level so that they have a deeper connection with the brand. And this becomes impossible if you aren't planning and research to learn about their target market and then structuring the video in a way that's gonna keep them engaged and wanna watch more, and even in the end, move forward in the call to action, which would be hire us for our services or buy this shampoo or whatever it is that you're making a video about. There are so many ways planning comes into play. It's not just for pre-production, but also your path to being a successful filmmaker. I spend a lot of time on planning, not just for films, but also what my next move is, because things are always changing. Video has changed, filmmaking has changed, and the way we distribute them has changed. And so I'm constantly learning new things and trying to update myself. But the next mistake that holds a lot of us back, that is kind of the opposite of the last one we just talked about, and that is just simply not starting. Now, I know you've heard this a lot, probably even in the last few weeks, being that this is the beginning of the year. And I've even said this many times in a lot of my other videos. But the truth is that this is the number one thing that truly slows us down at the beginning of our career. Whether it's I don't have enough skill or I don't have the right gear, whatever it might be, there's always gonna be something standing in the way of us not starting that project. And this is actually a topic and something that I get a lot in the comments section, just starting and how to get motivated to start. And I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the time, I find it hard to even get in front of this camera and make a video. And that's just because life has just hit my family really hard. And so it's been really hard to get in front of the camera and do my thing. But I continue on to do this because number one, I wanna provide value for you. That's why I'm here. I wanna equip you to get to reaching your goals. Everything starts really messy. This channel started at 0, my business started at 0. So I know it's messy at the beginning, but the more you're persistent and the more you push towards your goals, the more opportunities start to show up. And like I said before, in little increments, you start to see your business grow. You start to see success in your filmmaking career. And the rest is just history. But you can't gain any of that until you start. So I just want to encourage you to start that next film, write that next script, make that next video, send out that next cold email, or write that next treatment, whatever it might be. I want to encourage you to just start, because you've got this, friend. Well, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you liked this video or you learned something, please click the like button down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, friend.